Welcome back to my channel. I've been wanting to film this for like a really long time, kind of talking about my favorite Studio Ghibli films. So Studio Ghibli is a Japanese film studio based in Tokyo. They notoriously make animated films. If you've heard of My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, Ponyo, a lot of these like very big names are done by the same studio house. So big film studio, think like Japanese Pixar. I absolutely love, I've seen almost every single Studio Ghibli film that's come out, and I'm listing like in this video my top 5 favorites and why. Okay, so first place goes 100% to Spirited Away. Spirited Away came out in 2001. The story of Spirited Away, it's this girl, her name's Chihiro, and she's moving to a new town with her parents, and as they're going to their new neighborhood they stop for a second and end up going into this like other world, and she tries to save her parents. It goes through this entire like adventure. Her goal is to like return to the human world. The art is really incredible. I love the characters. You really do like go into this other world, and a lot of it's like traditional Japanese, like bathhouses, trains, just very magical. There's dragons, spirits. Seeing all of that unfold in the story is why it's my number 1. It's just incredible. I think it was the first Studio Ghibli film I ever saw, and it's definitely my favorite. So second on the list is Howl's Moving Castle. Howl's Moving Castle came out in 2004, a few years later. The story is basically, I think, set in the 1900s, but it does have a combination of like magic and real world. Like there's some kind of war historical setting. The premise is this girl, her name's Sophie. She works at this kind of like hat making store, and one day a woman, elderly, comes in, and it turns out she's a witch. She puts a curse on Sophie and turns her into like an old woman, and she is unable to express like what's happened to her. So like the main basis of the story is she's trying to get rid of this curse, but also she's kind of accepted, she ends up like kind of accepting who she is and stuff, and it's just very interesting. Like Howl's Moving Castle is almost like my second favorite just because of the themes, and Sophie as a character I just think is so much more developed than Chihiro, but ultimately I like the setting and the storyline of Spirited Away. I just think it's more like quintessential Studio Ghibli, and I like kind of being brought into this like spirited world. It's really cool. But Howl's Moving Castle, it talks about like how beauty's only skin deep. A lot of the themes with that, like Sophie does look like this older, kind of less attractive woman because of the curse, but her beauty still stands out because of like who she is as a person. And it's kind of like how she ends up getting over this curse and everything that kind of goes in it within this like world. And it's called Howl's Moving Castle because Howl is ultimately one of the other main characters, and his like home is constantly moving. So it's really cool. I would say it's number 2 just because the themes and the messages in that film are just so good. I definitely recommend it. Okay, so I don't want to give too much away with like the storyline of Castle in the Sky, but there's this main girl, her name's Shita, and she's from Laputa, which is this Laputa, I think is how you say it, actually named after a floating island in Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, if you are a literary person at all. She's sought after the government and pirates because of this prize like crystal necklace that is apparently a map to getting to this floating island in the world where there's tons of like riches. And she runs into this boy whose name is Pazu, and it's kind of like he is influenced by her. The big like conflict within the story is they are trying to get to this castle because she has this like necklace that's like a guide. He wants to see it, Pazu wants to see it because his father had like always wanted to show him this place. So it's like this like dream kind of fantasy place that he didn't even know if it was really real, and the government wants to get control of it so that they can use all of its resources. So it's a lot like this constant theme that's within Studio Ghibli of like nature and natural beings, and then the evolution of society and their destruction of these like natural resources and things like that. I would recommend Castle in the Sky if you really liked Princess Mononoke, which I will shortly talk about. It has kind of similar themes. I just really liked the relationship between Shita and Pazu. It's a really sweet kind of love story. That's all I want to say. I don't want to give too much away, but if you've seen it, let me know in the comments. It's really good. Okay, my next favorite, number 4, is Kiki's Delivery Service, and this came out shortly after Castle in the Sky in 1989. The story is like Kiki is this young witch. She's kind of left the nest. She wants to be able to support herself and work, and she ends up using her ability to fly on a broomstick to do deliveries for a bakery. It's very much like a coming of age kind of story, and talks about kind of the difference between being like a young teenager and generally relying on a lot of people, but also learning how to be independent on yourself and on your own. Kind of, it's not, I would say like it's way more straightforward than a lot of other films. It's really just like a girl growing up and the end of her like adolescence into adulthood. It's really good subbed or dubbed, and it's definitely a classic. And then the 5th and final favorite of my top 5 is, of course, Princess Mononoke. So Princess Mononoke came out in 1997, and so it's like kind of the in-between. I would say it's probably one of the top grossing Studio Ghibli films, and it definitely has a lot of the traditional themes like society versus nature, that kind of aspect. The setting is in the Muromachi period, which is apparently like mid-1300s to 1550s. You can definitely tell like by the way the villages look and the way everyone's dressed. And Ashitaka, he's this prince, I think. There's this demon that enters the village and he kills it, but he's cursed. Eventually it will spread through his body and he's apparently supposed to die. Taka is trying to release this curse, kind of similar to Howl's Moving Castle. So he goes like through this forest. He runs into San, who's like the main like wolf girl that you see a lot in the art depicting Princess Mononoke. This kind of fight between people, like the spirits within the forest fighting a lot of like the humans who are trying to cut down the forest, destroy it, use it for resources, all of that. So he ends up kind of in between all of that. I think it has good commentary on society. I do remember watching it kind of around the same time when I was a kid and learning about the rainforest and things like that, and it kind of reminded me of it. The importance of like not destroying everything that we have on this earth. If you're interested in like more of that kind of theme with like respect to Mother Nature, kind of like the conflict between that. I don't know enough Japanese history to know how much that was a reoccurring issue during that time period in Japan, but I do think that Hayao Miyazaki, who did write it, tends to use that theme in a lot of his films. It's really good. Again, like I've seen tons of Studio Ghibli. I'm also kind of regretting that My Neighbor Totoro isn't on it. Another favorite, just not in my top 5. It would be like 6. But yeah, if you have seen any of these movies, please let me know. If you agree with my list, what you think. I think a lot of people put Princess Mononoke at the top, but I have to say Spirited Away is definitely my favorite. And then very close second is Howl's Moving Castle. So I just think that a lot of these tend to have really good lessons about respect to others, love for yourself, becoming an adult, and all of these kinds of like life lessons that kids end up learning. So yeah, really, really good. Love Studio Ghibli. I'm considering having like maybe a movie night if on my Discord, and maybe watching one of these. So if there's anyone that you want to watch, let me know. Join my Discord if you haven't. I'm also been streaming on Twitch, so if you want to follow me on Twitch, please do. Everything is linked below. Again, thanks for watching.